Welcome to the Self Revolution podcast. This is your weekly reminder to wake up to who the fuck you really are. I'm your host, Breanna Rae Blaney, and it is truly my honor to guide you on this journey of self-revolution and evolution. Join me as one by one, we collectively wake up to create a more harmonious, enlightened, and fulfilled world. Welcome back to the Self Revolution podcast. It is a pleasure to be here with you. As you can see, we are traveling, been back on the road recently, and so anticipate some more podcasts in different settings throughout this season. So today we're going to be talking about human connection. What really is it? What prevents us from deeply connecting with others, and how you can experience more connection with yourself and with others in your life on a day-to-day basis. Human connection at its core is what I believe we all deeply desire in life. And really, when we're talking about human connection, it is also connection with our innate selves of who we really are. And ultimately, that is the journey of yoga. I mean, the word yoga means union with yourself, to yoke, to really open up your heart and your being and to merge with that oneness of consciousness that is your true essence. And when you are deeply connecting with another human being, that is ultimately what is happening. When you look another human being in the eyes, or you even look at nature and feel like really connected to nature, or into your dog's eyes, into any other living creature's eyes, and you feel this deep sense of awe and wonder, that is this experience of your true self. And ultimately a reflection, almost like a mirror of your innate self in the oneness that is ultimately all around you and within you. And I know that might sound a little esoteric, but in truth, it really comes back to a scientific perspective, right? We all come from the same source. Your body, when it dies, disintegrates into the earth. And then you are born from your mother, and we are all made up of the same stuff. And that really is this fundamental, principle of life, the fact that we are all intimately connected, yet there is this duplicity and this diversity that exists all around us. And so ultimately, when we're talking about the journey of self-realization, yes, it is a self journey of being able to recognize that within yourself, but it is also a collective journey, a collective awakening of being able to see ourselves and others and see the reflection of ourselves in every single other living thing. So last week, I had the pleasure of being at Anya's first retreat and hosting Anya's first retreat with a group of financial professionals who's really leading the charge of a new way of being and advising around wealth. But what was so profound around this experience was the depth of human connection that we experienced, that I personally experienced with them and that they experienced with one another. And what I loved about this is that regardless of where you come from, regardless of who you are, regardless your field or profession, you can experience deep human connection and deep human connection with complete strangers. Most people walked into this room never having met each other before. And they left as best friends, as like soulmates, sisters and brothers, and in such a short period of time. And the reason that happened is because we created a space that allowed for intimate, deep connection right from the get-go. My teacher, Dr. Nabodi, often says that if you sit with anyone for 2 hours and simply just hear their story, that you will fall in love with them. And I fundamentally believe that as well. I think it can even happen in a shorter period of time. If you have an open heart and an open mind, and you sit down with another human being and look them in the eyes and really cultivate a depth of presence and connection, it's impossible to want to hurt something else or hurt someone else. And so in this experience of this retreat, it was so profound to see how complete strangers were sitting across from one another and connecting at such a deep level. being able to see themselves reflected in each other, and to feel that bond of deep love and deep connection. So when you in your life, maybe you've experienced this with a partner, or when you've been in love with someone and you feel this overwhelming sensation of unity, of connection, or maybe you felt it in nature, or like I said, with a pet, right? And so maybe think about a time in your life where you have felt that sense of deep connection. And if nothing comes to mind, I invite you to go outside at some point this week and simply place your hands on the earth, or place your hands on a tree, and just take a few deep breaths and cultivate that sense of awe. And just feel, notice, and watch. Maybe you can put yourself in nature with a beautiful landscape. I often think that nature is one of the easiest ways for us to begin to experience that sense of awe and connection, because sometimes it's a little less jarring than actually doing it with another human being, because sometimes the human-to-human connection can get a little bit messy, which I'll talk about in just a minute. But nature really is that unobstructed source of just pure energy. And so get outside this week, put your hands on the earth, put your feet in the grass, and just allow yourself to breathe and to feel and to connect. And to think about the fact that you came from this earth, that you are made up of the same elements that are fundamentally in nature. And without them, you would not exist. So bringing this back to the human-to-human perspective, why don't we experience this state of oneness every waking minute of every day, if it is what we innately desire? And if you ask yourself, what do you as a human being innately desire? And we did this in the group setting, and I've done this in a number of settings. And ultimately, at the end of the day, as human beings, we all really desire pretty much the same thing. We desire to feel loved, seen, heard, understood, and connected. So why do we not experience those things? Or why are we caught in these cycles of disconnection or discontentment with life? From a Vedic perspective, it comes back to the 5 Kleshas, or the 5 causes of suffering. And all of these 5 causes of suffering are really rooted in the first cause of suffering, which is avidya, or ignorance. And this concept of avidya is really at the root of all of Vedic philosophy, of yoga, of this journey of self-realization. And it's this fact that we are ignorant. We become ignorant of our true self. We've lost that connection with who we really are. And we begin to see the illusion, or get caught in the illusion, with all of these external realities. We are caught in the ignorance of that self, and that leads to these other causes of suffering. So past avidya, the second cause of suffering is our ego, our I-ness, our belief that we are separate from a connected reality. The next is attachment. We begin to attach ourselves to things and to believe, we are our body, or we are our mind, and we become really attached to these things in our lives. The fourth is aversion. From that attachment to things in our life, we become really attached to our partner, or we become really attached to a job. We then create aversion. Right? We are fearful of losing that thing. We're so attached to the thing that we are fearful and in this state of aversion, which ultimately causes us pain and suffering. Instead of being open to experiencing the full spectrum of human emotion, we instead try to avoid it. Right? We try to avoid pain. We try to avoid the feeling. We try to avoid those sensations that maybe we're not used to feeling. And ultimately, that causes us more suffering. Maybe you've been in a relationship and you've gotten your heart broken before, and you experience this really deep pain. And you now have an aversion to feeling that again, or to going into another relationship because you are scared of experiencing that again, right? That's that sensation or just that experience of aversion. And then the last klesha is our fear of dying. Ultimately, this clinging to life itself. The fact that we are so worried, we want to control what's happening in this lifetime, that we struggle to make peace with the unknown. We struggle to accept this cycle of birth and death, and that death is ultimately a natural part of life. I'll go back to the root klesha of avidya, right? This ignorance of our true self, and the fact that along the way, we have lost our connection with who we really are. And ultimately, that is at the root. We've mistaken our identity for all of these other things. And it's masked. It's created all of this illusion around that innate self. So ultimately, the goal of life is to move through these causes of suffering and come back to the innate unity and oneness that is your true self, and that is my true self. And that when you are able to do that, or to take steps to removing that maya, to removing the illusion, that ultimately opens you up to the expansive, limitless reality that is ultimately the truth. And we get, I think, in these little micro moments, these little experiences of what it feels like to be really connected with ourselves. Maybe it's through that walk in nature, or maybe it's through a moment with our partner. But the invitation is to start to expand and to think about, what would it really feel like and look like if you were able to start, if you were open enough to start living your life every moment of every day from this ultimate truth, this ultimate reality of connection, of oneness with everything around you. What would it look like to be able to walk down the street and to look every human being in the eye and to see yourself reflected in them? To not judge the homeless person on the street, but instead see them for who they are, which is another human being that is made up of the same stuff that you are. And I think when we can start to create and implement that into our daily lives, when we can start to bring that sense of humanness into our work, regardless of what that work may be, it brings this quality of connection and transformation that is unparalleled to anything else, because we're really getting to the root of what it really means to be a human being and the ultimate goal of life. So my invitation this week is to try and find some of those micro moments. Maybe every single day, ensure that you have one moment of deep connection, whether that's with yourself or another human being, or with nature, a pet, any other living thing in this world, in this reality, and to give yourself that moment of pause, of connection, and to just feel. By just creating these micro moments of connection, it will help put into perspective everything else in your life, right? All of the to-do lists, all of the stress, all of the things that have to get done, all of the things that I know that you are juggling on a day-to-day basis, that just being able to create that micro moment of connection, of love, of truth, will put that into perspective and ultimately help you remember the ultimate goal of life is that. It's love, helping other people, being seen, heard, felt. That really is what it's all about. So with that, from my heart to yours, namaste.